I closed on average 30 plus mortgage loans a month at the height of my career, while only averaging 40 hours a week. And that's because I'm considered one of the best at marketing and sales in the mortgage industry. But it wasn't always like this. I started off making 300 plus cold calls a day and I couldn't close anything. I had all the typical limiting beliefs like if I just had better leads or if I just had a better product, but none of that would have helped me sell better. I learned sales isn't about pushing, but it's about positioning. I'm Amir Syed, and I funded over $1 billion in mortgage loans. And now I have the great honor and privilege to show others how to do it as well. Today, I'm going to show you the simple sales framework I've shared with a select group of loan officers that went from 0 to 50 million to 100 million plus in production year over year. We'll cover a few of the following topics together. The biggest hidden mistake I see loan officers make that stops them from closing more loans. The 3 key elements that control every sales conversation. The essential objection handling process so your borrowers can move forward instead of backing out. And I'll even give you the exact scripts to use in key moments so you know exactly what to say, how to say it, and when to say it. Let's go. I can confidently state that sales saved my life. See, in life I've observed 3 highly valuable skills that only high performers possess. One is power communication, second is emotional intelligence, and third is effective decision making. If you can master all 3, you will live a life most people only dream of, with communication being the first and most important skill. Your level of communication will directly impact your level of income. It will help you persuade better through effective copywriting and then persuade better through effective vocal impressions. It'll help you negotiate better and so much more. Earlier in my career, after dropping out of college, I was hired as a mortgage telemarketer for a group of top producing loan officers. My job was to make hundreds of cold calls a day, 6 days a week, and it absolutely sucked the first few months. When I did the napkin math, I realized that I made easily over 50,000 cold calls to date, and I had to learn sales in the harshest environments that even the most hardened salespeople couldn't stomach. I'm talking colder and harsher than a Chicago winter, and that's ironically where I grew up. I was given a stack of pages this thick that had the names of hundreds of homeowners with higher than market mortgage rates. The list only included the homeowner's full name, property address, mortgage company, interest rate, and phone number. And so many of my fellow old mortgage heads know exactly what I'm talking about. We were refi hunting in the early 2000s. My requirement was to call these people unbeknownst to them, build rapid rapport, complete a full mortgage application with a social security number, and to set up the refinance proposal the next day for one of my partner loan officers, barring any qualification issues. I had no body language, no persuasion, no visual cues, just my words, enthusiasm, and purpose. That experience taught me I didn't need better leads or a better product. I just needed to learn how to communicate at a higher level because I was the product. And with that new mindset, I developed a P60, a perfect 60-second opening script that became legendary. See, sales is not about convincing, it's about guiding. And when you master the language of sales, everything changes. Funny enough, as an immigrant, English is my second language, but sales became my first language. So you can indeed call me bilingual. I've used my sales skills to close over 3,000 transactions in my career, lead hundreds of loan officers in my companies to 2x, 5x, and even 10x their results while also maintaining good personal harmony. Sales skills helped me go from being a broke immigrant kid that barely graduated high school, dropped out of college, to become a telemarketer, to eventually having multiple $100 million plus year in production, to now an executive that leads 2 8-figure a year mortgage companies. Those same sales skills helped me negotiate my first real estate purchase at the age of 25, which was a 17-unit apartment building, and then another 28-unit apartment building at the age of 29, both of which I still own today. And not to mention my most important close, my wife. And you can certainly judge my sales skills by how my wife looks. I certainly outkicked my coverage. So you can see how sales impacts everything. This isn't just theory. This isn't just fluff. I will share with you all these tactics that I have learned, earned, and deployed ethically. These are the real words, frameworks, and techniques that top producers use to win every single day. If you've ever struggled with objection handling, closing opportunities, or feeling confident in sales conversations, this is going to be a game changer for you. As you listen to this video, take note of what stands out to you and how that's compared to what you've been taught about sales before. Even better, I want this to be interactive. So drop your thoughts in the comments below as they come to mind. So let's start with the basics. And let me be the first to tell you the biggest reason most salespeople fail. They focus on the wrong thing. Yes, most salespeople, especially loan officers, are trained to study products instead of studying people. They think if they just memorize every detail about mortgage rates and mortgage programs and underwriting guidelines, that they'll automatically become top producers. This is wrong. Sales is not just about how much you know about your programs and products, though important. It's also how well and often you communicate that knowledge to your audience. You can be the best looking and most eligible bachelor in the world, but will never get the beautiful girl across the room by winking at her in the dark. Think about that. The best salespeople aren't always the smartest. They're the ones who have the largest target audience, make the most consistent value-led contact attempts, control the conversation by asking the right questions, and proactively overcome objections with confidence, moving their prospects through the decision-making process, and having people feel heard and understood. Yes, I know that's a lot, but it's what it takes to win, and with lots of practice, it will become second nature for you to sing this beautiful sheet of sales music. It's just that most loan officers don't train for this. They just rely on crusty ass scripts that they don't fully understand or believe in. And when a prospect throws them off with an objection, they freeze or become defensive. If they don't control the conversation, the prospect will. And when the prospect controls the conversation, you lose the sale. Remember that you're not a loan officer. You are a people officer first. The more people who see you, know you, like you, trust you, and love you, the more loans you'll close. You earn that trust by mastering the language of sales. And I can promise you that if you looked at the top 100 loan officers on the Scotsman's Guide ranking every year, most of those loan officers do not have the lowest rates. They have the best people, product, and process skills. Remember that. The best salespeople don't push people into decisions. They lead them there. And they do so by using psychology. Remember, sales is not about pushing. It's about positioning. So there are 3 key elements that determine whether someone says yes or ghosts you. Number 1 is tonality. They say first impressions are everything. That's true, but vocal impressions are everything amplified. How you say something is even more important than what you say. People don't buy just based on words alone. They buy based on how those words have them feel. If your tonality is weak, uncertain, or desperate, the buyer will sense that and will back away. Similarly, if your tone is confident, controlled, and patient, they're more likely to follow your lead, and you have to wrap your words in the right tone as they travel from your mouth to their ears. Number 2 is sequencing. The order in which you say things matter. Most salespeople answer questions in the wrong order. For example, low-level loan officers discuss rates at the onset of a loan consultation, but high-level loan officers discuss them at the end. The best closers control the conversation by framing their offer in a way that makes saying yes feel easy. And number 3, how you position the conversation controls the outcome. Check this out. For example, if someone says, "What's your rate?" Most low-level loan officers jump right into quoting rates. But a pro reframes the conversation and says, "Are you looking just for the lowest rate, or are you more focused on the overall best financing strategy?" Oof. See, this shifts the focus from just numbers to long-term benefits and expert guidance. And that is what makes the difference. You're in a position of authority. Now that you understand the basic psychology behind sales, let's dive into some objection handling like the best. And remember this, objections aren't rejections. They're buying signals. They're positive responses. Your prospects wouldn't even be speaking with you if they didn't have some level of interest. When a prospect says, "I need to think about it," or "I need to check with my spouse," they're not saying no. They're telling you what's holding them back. It's actually a blessing. Your job is to guide them through it. And the cool thing is that many of these objections can be prevented earlier on in the sales dialogue. Let me show you. Let's break down 5 powerful objection handling techniques that will get you to win more. Number 1 is known as the tie-down question. This is all about getting micro agreements throughout the conversation so the prospect naturally says yes when it counts. For example, your borrower who's considering a refinance will say, "I'm not sure if right now is the best time to refinance." What you should say with a comforting tone is, I completely understand. I have a personal policy to never convince anyone to refinance when it doesn't make sense. Just so I'm clear, I remember at the onset of our conversation, you mentioned wanting to save $500 a month by also paying off all your high interest credit cards, which saves you about $6,000 a year and equates to about a full month of salary back to you. Is that still important to you? By making them reaffirm their own goals through a proper upfront discovery process, you make it harder for them to back out. Now, let me be super clear. When I tell a borrower or a prospect I have a personal policy to never jam a refinance down their throat, it's the truth. When you generate more leads than you can handle and have a long-term minded philosophy, you can sell without desperation and detach from the outcome, which in itself is sales mastery. If the refinance truly makes sense, it's your job to match your conviction with persuasive language involved. Now, number 2 is the reframe. Reframing shifts the buyer's focus away from their objection and toward the bigger picture. For example, borrower might say, I'm just shopping for the lowest rates. Totally makes sense. Just curious. If a slightly lower rate comes with higher closing costs, longer processing times, and a lender that jeopardizes your earnest money deposit by not meeting the mortgage contingency date, is that still the best option for you? Pause. You will have reframed their entire limiting belief that the lowest interest rate is the only key factor. Number 3 is the preemptive strike, one of my favorites. The best salespeople don't wait for objections. They eliminate them before they even happen. For example, at the start of a call, you might say, hey, before we dive in, I just want to let you know that my priority is to make sure the math makes sense on a potential refinance. We have to make sure the benefits far outweigh the costs, and if we need to wait, I will suggest that. Is that okay with you? By addressing the common concern before it even comes up, you immediately increase their trust by decreasing any tension. Number 4 is the boomerang technique. This turns their objection into the exact reason they should move forward. For example, your borrower might say, I want to wait for the rates to drop. You'll respond with, I totally get that. I'd be remiss if I didn't share this with you. But I did a little research and I discovered that for every 1% mortgage rates drop, another 5 million more people enter the housing market. Those who will win in this market aren't the ones who wait for the rates to drop. It's the ones who get in now and refinance later when rates do drop. Let's look at your goals again. We discussed a $500,000 price point with a 5% down payment. That gets your payment right where you want it to be. So does that rate really matter in the grand scheme of things if the down payment and the monthly payment work? Now their own objection becomes their reason to act. And number 5 is the power of silence. Most salespeople just talk too damn much. They forget that silence is a secret sauce to sales success. So your borrower might say, I need time to think about it. You'll reply with, I understand. What else can I provide you now to help guide your thinking time? Zip it. See, silence forces them to give you the real reason they're hesitating so you can address it directly. It's those little whispers that are really the screams you'll pick up by letting them talk and talk without cutting them off. And then you can potentially pivot to a few other super creative rebuttals to that I need to think about it, such as, do I have your permission to be honest? The last thing I want to do is to call you every single day to see how your thinking is going when you're really just not excited about this, and then you end up ghosting me. It wastes everyone's time and can make things awkward. What's exactly holding you back from being excited about this? Please be direct, as honesty saves everybody time. Again, these are some real scripts and examples that my team and I use to win more and more opportunities every day. If you want to see what else I've done to fund over $1 billion in loans, I want you to tap the subscribe button below. You deserve this education. Now, it's time to get to the good stuff. How to close like a pro. Closing isn't about pressuring people. It's about making their decision feel natural and logical. Here are 4 proven closing techniques you can start using immediately. And remember, use them ethically. Number 1 is a takeaway close. People want what they feel they might lose. For example, you might get the objection, hey, I want to be fully transparent. We got a quote from another lender with a lower rate than yours, and I really like you, but I have to do what's best for my family. I'm sure you've heard that one before. Your rebuttal might be, thank you for not ghosting me and bringing me another great option. I appreciate your diligence, and honestly, I love how smart you're being as a consumer. I do the exact same. Affirm them. Let me ask you this, please. Outside of rate, have I done a great job for you thus far? Pause, listen. Remember, silence is smart. Hear what they say. Let's say this gentleman's name is Todd, so address them by their first name strategically. Todd, you're really important to me, and I worked really hard on your pre-approval. There are times my upper management will match another lender's offer if I request the match. I know I can get the approval to honor this quote, but my upper management will only do so if we lock today and get the appraisal initiated. Can I have your commitment to move forward if I can match this other lender's terms? If they hesitate, they feel like they might miss out, which makes them take action. Number 2 is the urgency close. Creating real urgency makes people move faster. For example, you might say, hey, I check market trends daily, and based on what I'm seeing, rates are expected to increase this week. If we lock in today, you secure this rate. If we wait, we might be looking at something higher. What would you like to do? When urgency is backed by real data, it's highly effective. All right, number 3 is the assumptive close, my favorite. Instead of asking if they want to move forward, just assume that they do. For example, okay, Todd, so it looks like the 30-year fixed option is right in line with the payment we were shooting for, and I like it for you. Let's move forward. Here's the next steps. This subtly tells the borrower that the decision has already been made. And notice how I said the word we. And number 4 is the swap out close. This works when a buyer is hesitant about your initial offer. For example, Todd, I know you're 3 years into your current 30-year mortgage. Instead of refinancing and going back into a 30-year, I think we look at a 25-year option. That way, you can save on long-term interest while still saving monthly on your mortgage payment a little bit. Can I show you some of the math on all this? Did you notice how I use the word we instead of you? Using inclusive language is another example of effective communication. It has them feel like you're on the same side of the table. True advisor. Sales isn't about pushing harder. It's about understanding human behavior, controlling the conversation, and having your borrowers feel like they're making the best decision for themselves. This is especially true in the mortgage industry. And I hope that you picked up 1, maybe 2 gems from this video that you can implement immediately to help you be more confident and convert better. So if you want to master everything I talked about in this video, I have more training videos that go deeper into everything absolutely free. I wish I had access to stuff like this earlier in my career, but I made a promise that when I made it, I would create this for my audience of loan officers. You can tap the link below on the screen or in the description to get access to everything. Again, it's totally free. So if you're ready to close more loans like the pros do, hit the link now and let's win.